Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Lito Amit, and welcome to the pilot episode of Speak Ergonomics. For the first topic, I am going to talk about the different occupational health and safety agencies in different countries and their roles in promoting a safe and healthy working environment. But before that, and since this is the first episode, let's do some rundown on what you can expect from this channel or podcast. I am in this platform to create awareness and educate people on health and safety related topics, most especially for the working population. It is a basic right of every employee or worker to have a safe and healthy working environment. I will also be talking about topics on ergonomics, hence the name of this channel, and diseases related to the field, non-communicable diseases such as stress, maybe cardiovascular accidents, and other forms of diseases that are not really highly or that are not contagious, and other topics related to occupational health and safety. I personally believe that if employees are knowledgeable in terms of health and safety at work, they'll be able to spot problems in their workplace at once, and they will be able to help prevent accidents and injuries for themselves and for their co-workers, and with that, they can maintain productivity. So, the first question: do you know the name of the health and safety governmental agency in your country? And if your answer is no, then I'm afraid I cannot ask further and just cut the chase. In the United States, it is called OSHA. It stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. It is under the state's Department of Labor and was formed by the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. A little trivia, they are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. Congratulations, OSHA. And the sole mission of OSHA is to assure safe and healthful working conditions for working men and women by setting and enforcing standards and by providing training, outreach, education, and assistance. So if you want to become a certified safety professional or a professional industrial hygienist, you need to be able to learn what OSHA does and the different health and safety standards that they created. So it is part of the test. Now in the UK, they call it HSE to mean Health and Safety Executive. In South Korea, they have KOSHA. Their version is KOSHA, and it stands for Korea Occupational Safety and Health Agency. In the Philippines, where I come from, we call it Occupational Safety and Health Center under the Department of Labor and Employment. Their main office is located in Quezon City, if I'm not mistaken. All of these organizations share the same purpose. They create laws and regulations, implement them, they do inspections, they conduct trainings and education, and make sure that industries protect their workers. It is also important to note, especially for big industries such as in construction, manufacturing, with highly hazardous nature of work, and with hundreds or thousands of workers, there should be a health and safety officer or officers, depending on the number of workers, assigned to make sure that safety standards are implemented and that workers are given proper training and education about their work. Now, the implementation of laws and regulations regarding health and safety is not limited among manual laborers. There are also standards and regulations that need to be followed by small and medium enterprises, although it could vary from country to country depending again on the specific regulation for that country. So there will be exemptions if depending on how big or small your business is. Now, did you know that in first world countries such as the United States or the UK or even in South Korea and Japan, health and safety agencies are considered to be the villain by company owners. They are considered to be the Thanos of their universe. And it is for one reason, because of penalty. Now, how are companies penalized? There are, I will use OSHA as an example here because OSHA is one of the most successful health and safety agencies in the world and a pioneer perhaps in this field. Now, as I have mentioned earlier, for instance, OSHA creates standards and regulations, make them available for business owners, and expect them to implement with no reservations. However, not all wants to follow the rules. It's human nature. And try to dodge the tedious and sometimes costly work of giving proper trainings, proper personal protective equipment or PPEs, installing safety signages, and etc. So, upon inspection, sometimes supervised by visits from OSHA inspectors, or surprised visits, by OSHA inspectors, they would be caught and penalized for certain violations. However, this is not always the case. The penalty would depend on, or the sanction would depend on the type or how grave the violation is. So, employees' safety complaints can also trigger OSHA inspections. So, in first world countries, workers have the voice. It's not the singing competition, but they have the right to they don't have the right to sing, but they have the right to report whatever hazards they spot in their workplaces, and OSHA inspectors would pay a visit. Now, employee safety complaints again can trigger OSHA inspections. So therefore, in first world countries, company owners are very careful, especially in dealing with workers, because they have power. Now, according to a recent report, a serious violation can fetch a maximum penalty of $13,260, and a willful or repeat violation can cost up to more than $132,000. Now, you may wonder, for our Filipino listeners, how much is that in Philippine pesos? So, rough estimate maybe, let's see, for $13,000, it may range between 600 or maybe 500 to more than 600,000 pesos, and $132,000 may range from 6.6 million pesos. That's a crazy amount of money. But do you wonder what mostly the violations are, or what are the violations, the category of violations? Now, an article written by John de Mersu categorized the violations into 6 that ranges from minor to serious. So let's talk about them one by one. The first one is called the de minimis violations. This is a technical violation of OSHA rules that has no direct impact on health and safety, and therefore inspectors would give no fine and only gives advice. So, for example, a simple violation would be the use of a ladder or a wrong ladder with 13 inches between rungs rather than 12 inches. So this is an example of a de minimis violation. So OSHA inspector would just say, okay, for this violation, you just need to purchase or provide the proper, the right type of ladder with the right measurements. Now, the second type of violation is the other than serious violations that would not usually cause death or serious injury, but is nevertheless related to job safety or employees' health. Now, the maximum penalty could reach to up to $7,000 for each specific violation. Now, to give you an example, for instance, failure to provide copies of safety regulations and failure to post required documentation in work areas. For example, PPEs or signages, okay, something like that. Maybe this is more on signages, okay? So, for instance, signage which says that this type of material is toxic, okay, or inhaling this type of material can cause respiratory diseases, all right? So this, as simple as a signage, can actually be a violation of OSHA rule or standard. Now, example, the third one is the serious violations. So with this one, when an employer knows or should know of a situation that has a definite chance of causing serious injury or death, but does not remedy the situation. So, for instance, if the employer fails to ensure that employees who carry heavy loads wear steel-toe boots or the proper type of footwear. So it has something to do with PPE. So he knows that it could cause a serious accident or even death. So a maximum violation for each is $7,000. That's still a lot of money. Now the fourth one is the willful violations. This is the most serious violation category and is reserved for intentional violations of OSHA rules or situations that show disregard for employees' health and safety. So the minimum violation could cost $5,000 to $70,000 for each. Now, if an employee is killed, in the event that the worker is killed, the violation becomes a criminal offense with a minimum fine of $250,000 for an individual, and for a corporation, it could range to up to, it could be $500,000 and imprisonment for individual. So that's really very, very serious. Now, an example might involve a fatal crushing accident because of, or the employer did not implement adequate safety procedures. As I have mentioned a while ago, they should be given education and training, orientation about their specific job responsibilities or the nature of jobs that they will be doing, especially for those workers who handle heavy equipment or highly toxic materials or chemicals. Now, the fifth one is the repeated violations. Now, an employer cited for a particular violation and subsequent inspection reveals another identical or very similar violation. However, if the employer contests the original violation and is awaiting a final OSHA decision, inspectors cannot consider a violation of the same type of repeated violation. So the penalty could cost to up to $70,000 maximum. Now, the last type would be failure to abate prior violation. So to give you an example, for instance, when an employer receives a violation citation, The citation includes a date by which the employer must remedy the situation, but unfortunately, he did not. $7,000 per day would be the penalty. That would come after a specified date until remedy is given to the condition. So that is a lot of money. Just imagine if you keep ignoring, or as an employer, you keep ignoring the violation for a month, or you forgot, with all your honesty, you forgot that you have to remedy this kind of situation in the workplace. You forgot, and then it took you 5 months. So 7,000 divided by the number of days that you missed giving a remedy. That's a lot of money. Now, we know that this is a lot of money, but this only goes to say that in countries like the US or the UK or Korea, workers in businesses or work sites are protected. And that is very important because, as we all know, the human resource is the very backbone of every organization. Now, what business owners must actually understand is that if they make sure that accidents or injuries are prevented by following safety rules and standards, it actually saves them more money. Why? For example, when an employee meets an accident, let's just say he has to be hospitalized, he has to be paid while recovering, and then during the time that he's recovering, of course, he will have no output, or the productivity will be affected. The productivity of the business will be affected. Now, it means that an injured employee can become a financial burden to a business. So, again, what business owners have to understand is that all they have to do is to think long term, to think prevention. So if they will be able to prevent accidents and injuries, it's not only that employees will be coming to work, and the system, the production, or the money, the income of the business will not be affected. Now, the exemptions, there are, of course, as what I've mentioned a while ago, there are exemptions of OSHA rules, but I am not going to talk about this because it would take me another hour maybe to look at, to discuss what are the exempted businesses or types of businesses by OSHA or for a specific country. But you can, however, suggest later on in the comments below if you want me to talk about what type of businesses are exempted with OSHA rules, or if you want me to tackle about your country's health and safety agencies and their rules. So you can just put it on the comment below. Sadly, the situation is vaguely different in developing countries like the Philippines. Although health and safety laws for workers exist, business can still circumvent responsibilities when accidents or injuries occur. How is that? So, to give you an example, perhaps the biggest construction-related accident in the Philippines was recorded in 1981 when at 3 a.m. or on November 17 of that year, during the construction of the Manila Film Center in Pasay City. The scaffolding collapsed and at least 169 workers fell and were buried under quick-drying wet cement. Now the question is, did the families of the workers receive the right benefits under the health and safety law? And to think that the OHS law in the country was already born that time. So, every day there may be accidents or injuries in workplaces in developing countries that are not recorded because workers fail to report, or maybe they're afraid to file a complaint about them. Malpractices like this will only continue if workers do not know their health and safety rights. So if you are right now listening and you are working for a certain company, especially if the nature of your job is highly or there is a high risk for accidents or injuries, you better know your rights. Now, the working environment will not improve if you keep on, ignoring these kinds of, ignoring these malpractices at work in your workplace. Supervisors, managers, or company owners will do nothing to alleviate the working conditions or your working conditions if you will not do something. So therefore, my advice for every worker who is listening right now, especially if your work is highly dangerous or with a high possibility of hazards and risks, you have to know your rights. So I would suggest that you go online, search for the official website of the Health and Safety Agency in your country, and browse through the available materials. So I promise you that educating yourself about your health and safety rights will pay off, and this is also for your own protection. Now, apart from preventing accidents and injuries at work, occupational health and safety agencies also identify diseases related to work. There are now a number of occupational diseases that are recognized by OHS agencies. Again, it depends on your country's OHS agency and need to be compensated. So, for example, those diseases related to lungs or lung problems, or some countries like the United States, musculoskeletal disorders or body pains are now compensated or considered an occupational disease. So more information about this topic will be presented in my next video, so please watch out for that. I think this will also be very helpful. I will try to discuss these occupational diseases that are recognized by OHS, at least for Korea or maybe the Philippines or the United States. So I know that I only talked about the role of health and safety agencies in a seemingly abstract and condensed manner. So if you have a particular topic or questions in mind about OSH that you want me to talk about in my future videos, please do leave a comment below, and I will be happy to research on that topic, and I'll try my best to make a video or a content about that. So please always remember that your safety matters. So if you are safe, you go to work safe, you go home safe, you are not only protecting yourself, but you're also protecting your family, you are protecting your co-workers. So it gives a chain effect. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening and joining me today for this pilot episode, and I hope that you learned something from me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to be updated of my next videos, please click subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.